I came out of the jungle in 2006 with a very powerful vision that humanity makes it from the precipice of ecological disaster where we really find ourselves. We're just moving faster and faster towards cutting down the rainforest and polluting the oceans and allowing GMOs and pesticides and herbicides to contaminate the waterways. And it's just like, it's like nonstop, you know? And I was like, hey, wait a second, you know, we can do better than this, you know? And nobody really cared. People just they didn't have the capacity to pay attention. And we had, at the time, we had 62% obesity rates. Now they're 70% overweight or obese.
How long ago was this? How many years ago?
2006.
Okay.
I had my visions in the Amazon ayahuasca ceremony the first time, 2006. And I came out of the jungle, and YouTube was a brand new reality, and I had this exotic digital footage, and I put it up there, and I thought people would really care, you know? And yeah, people do care on one level, but they don't have... There's no way to plug into the solutions because the lifestyle that we're all having right now is embedded in the systems that are driving the destruction that we're all living in. Yeah. And so the book is my end around. It's like 13 years later, it's my end around of how to attack the problem. And it's as above, so below. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we're not healthy? This is the law of correspondence, as above, so below. It's a natural, immutable law, hermetic code. And so it's the observable, you know, physical universe that applies to. And so the micro is in the macro. So my methodology is healthy me equals a healthy planet. Let's get people paying attention to their own real estate, their own body temple. This is the temple of God, the human body. Right? The tithes and offerings go into the pie hole, right? And so, you know, the esoteric element of that is, you know, the Star of David could be configured into the face, right? We've got the triangulation of the two temples right here with the Adam's apple, and then the mandible is the other side of the triangle that triangulates with the pineal gland, or our inner vision, and that makes up the Star of David, right? And the tithes and offerings go in that hole. That's one element of the esoteric.
So the human's really the key then, is what you're saying. The key to fixing the global humanitarian crisis.
Yeah.
We've got to start.
We are the problem.
At the simplest level.
We are the problem, therefore we are the solution, which is also part of the law of correspondence.
Everything's connected.
Everything's connected. Everything's in symbiotic relationship.
You know, it's something that I think... So we're recording now, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
But it's something that I think we see people being activists and going out there and trying to change big systems right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right? Just going straight to what we see is wrong out there. Is it easier to start on the individual level? Is it easier, and is it more important to first work on yourself before you can properly work on systems and change around you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes to both.
Yeah.
So my philosophy, or what I've been able to understand and see of the since I came out of the jungle, and since I've gone through my own awakening through meditation, and it's a symbiotic relationship as well, raising the consciousness and changing the systems. Can we change the systems and have new systems if the consciousness is still at a base level, at an elementary sophomore consciousness? Probably not. We're still in a competitive mindset. We're still in, dog eat dog. We don't understand our own sexuality. We don't understand our own divinity. And so it's like throwing pearls before swine, right? They're not going to know the difference. They're just going to eat them, So it's almost like the two things have to happen at the same time. The consciousness needs to raise, and we need to implement new systems.
So let's
and what we have right now with the consciousness where we're at, we have the do-gooders, the activists, which I consider myself an activist, but I'd go to these protests and it would be all this finger pointing, and ultimately it would end up being infighting, with even the people that wanted to do good. And you're seeing people try and buy up land or just stop cutting trees down in the rainforest when whole families and tribes survive on using cut trees for charcoal for their own sustenance, right? So, okay, well, but these lumber companies over here can cut all this and clear cut down this rainforest, but we can't have our own food? So it's not holistic in scope. It's not truly sustainable. And so we're going to have to come up with solutions that benefit the all. We're going to have to come up with utilizing materials like hemp, for example, is a major solution. But it competes with textile companies. It competes with pharmaceutical companies. If you look at the healing potential of hemp seeds, of CBD, which is now coming online, THC has some application, but most people just utilize it to get high. And not that there's anything inherently wrong with that, but, you know, smoking damn good weed makes you stupid. And so if you're smoking weed all the time, it makes you stupid all the time. And so that's not the most effective human use. So I digress. But my point is that marijuana has many applications, especially in textiles. You can make hemp bricks out of it. It grows. Its growing period, I think, is 3 months or something, very short.
Okay.
And so you can continuously grow it. The stalks are so strong; they're almost indestructible.
Wow,
And
I didn't
so,
realize that.
Oh yeah,
I did hear that one of the
it outperforms plastics. It outperforms textiles, cotton, which is a very destructive crop, especially they're using pesticides and herbicides. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no.
hemp is a big conversation, and it's a major solution. And so instead of just cutting trees down in the rainforest, you know, or growing destructive cash crops, let's grow productive ones. But lo and behold, what are our biggest industries that fuel the Western economies? Pharmaceutical drugs are right up there at the top. Textiles and plastics are right next to it. Oil is one of the biggest problems. Plastics are petrochemical byproducts. So these are oil companies profiteering, and if you go back and look at John D. Rockefeller and the monopolies that he was trying to create, and the way he did business, and that's still being played out right now because the Rockefeller Foundation, Standard Oil, and all its conglomerates that it's rolled into now dominates the world. Right? The United Nations were started by the Rockefellers. The school system was implemented by the Rockefellers. The Rockefeller Foundation funds university research departments.
Was this done with malintent from the beginning, you think? Or was it done kind of with good intent and then over time it's evolved into
I think it was good intent, the evolution of human consciousness. Hey, oil, you know, all of a sudden we're burning whale oil and that became so expensive, and then we started using oil, and a byproduct was gasoline, and then the combustion engine was developed and travel started. I think it was all just part. There is no real bad or good at the fundamental level. I think, you know, it's just human evolution. It's God expressing God consciousness, you know, God unfolding, if you're going into like deep philosophy. And so but the destructive elements, or I should say and, not but, and the destructive elements, the fossil fuel off-gassing byproducts, the pollution that's being created is choking off our life support systems. When you start to look at air, water, and soil being the common human heritage and the things that make life on Earth for human beings hospitable, right? We've basically contaminated the air, the water, and the soil, not just with fossil fuel burning and pollution coming from that, but also the extraction of those natural resources out of the earth and the subsequent wars and oil wars that we find ourselves in Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. You know, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. Oil exploration, and again, this goes back full circle, not only in Africa and the Sudan and the brown crude that's out there, but also Ethiopia. These were all people displaced off their lands and wars that started about natural resources. And then the number 5 and number 6 producers of oil in the world are Ecuador and Peru. Number 4 is Venezuela. Look at the coup d'etats and the destabilization that has happened down there. And then you've got the running of oil through Panama. Look at what we did down there. Right? Panama, Ecuador. It's all about... much more of this is depicted in John Perkins' body of work, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, where he explains how the World Bank and the IMF, they give loans to these third world countries, and then they give that money to Bechtel and Halliburton, and they go in.
Who are those?
These are big corporations, usually a lot of government contracts go to Halliburton. Dick Cheney was the vice president of Halliburton. And so they build infrastructure. And they'll go in and, they've got their own mercenaries, and they'll take care of whatever they needs to be done. So they'll build dams, electricity lines, infrastructure for countries. Usually infrastructure to get the natural resources out of the ground.
Interesting. Which isn't necessarily good for these countries. Maybe it's good for their economies at the beginning of things.
But what's an economy anyway? It's just a fake idea in the first place. And yeah, you could say it's good for this, because this is the way we run right now.
Yeah.
But it's good for our economy. It's good for the Western economies. It's good for the American economy that owns all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the Western bankers, etc. But how good is it if you're an Indian and you're living on land that they want to build a dam, and that dam is going to ruin your supply to get fish, which is going to feed your family and tribe. So it's not good for you then, right? It's not good for people that are displaced off their land for this, because natives, they don't respect that. And if there's a problem with warring factions or natives or Zulu Nation or African, they'll create coup d'etats, and they'll arm one group like they did in Rwanda, right? These aren't just a bunch of crazy human beings just wanting to fight with each other. Yeah, there's some of that in the world. But also...
But to a large extent, they're being controlled or manipulated.
And manipulated.
Enticed.
By people like Henry Kissinger and George Soros that understand and manipulate markets and the worlds and, people in general. And, I don't want to point the finger too much. We are all one or none is my basic tenet philosophy, right? We're all connected. We're all in symbiotic relationship with each other. We're all in symbiotic relationship with the earth. You cannot trash the planet without eventually harming yourself, right? So we see what's happening in Flint, Michigan with their water supply. There was a movie called Aaron Brockovich, which there was cesium-6, I think, which is a nuclear radioactive isotope, and they found it in the water in one of these communities in California, and there was cancer clusters all through there. And lo and behold, this was part of industrial waste business that was being done. What was that business doing? What were they manufacturing? I don't know. Maybe they were manufacturing car brakes, or car brakes made of asbestos or something. Car brakes, it's not a bad thing. It breaks the car so that you don't get into a crash. The fact of the matter is we're doing things in an unsustainable way, and it's time to call in a new way. Einstein said that we can't solve our problems at the same level of mind that created them. So we've got to go outside of the box. We've got to go outside of the box, and my philosophy, my approach is to approach it in a holistic manner, as would nature,
Yeah, what do you, let's dive into that. What do you mean by that? How do we do that?
So there's a principle...
I'm sure there's many ways to do it, but I guess maybe baseline, what...
My approach is align with nature. So there is a principle called biomimicry that states life creates conditions conducive for life. So a spider, for example, will take elements that are in its natural environment, local materials from its natural environment, and through an aqueous solution at room temperature, it creates something 5 times the strength of steel. A spider's web. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing could be said with coral reefs and how they can create elements like concrete. Right. So if we align with nature as human beings and we use our innovation and our ingenuity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can fly like an eagle, then we can create sustainable housing materials and medicines and industrial materials that are beneficial for the all, and that's not going to rape and pillage the environment at the cost of our own survival, right? Human ingenuity, I believe that we are the most technologically advanced piece of equipment in the whole entire universe, according to one of my mentors, Papa Joe, the great Maori healer.
Yeah.
The Maori are known as the
you talk
whale
quite a bit about
the whale riders.
Him and him kind of detoxifying you and clearing you up and helping you kind of have these sort of realizations, right?
Detoxing me emotionally because we store all of our life experiences in our DNA, in our bones, in our bone marrow, in our nervous system, and they're known as the bone crushers. You know,
the Maoris.
Yeah,
because they get right in there.
They'll roll up on the human body and they go deep, quick and fast, and you don't have any time. You don't. There's no place to squirm, and you just have to let it go. And I've seen miracles working with them for 22 years. And so Papa Joe used to say that the human being is the most technological piece of equipment in the whole entire universe. And so what I'm calling forth is just the next level in human consciousness. We're headed there anyways. And I believe that we're in a very competitive sophomore consciousness, Kardashian-type consciousness, tits and ass consciousness, right? We haven't developed ourselves fully. We don't have a full understanding of love, compassion, empathy, and utilizing those as our guide stones instead of competition and might makes right. And not that there's anything inherently wrong with that. It's brought us to this point in human history. And now I postulate it's just time to evolve. There's 7 going towards 10 billion people on the planet. It's up to us to create sustainable systems that are beneficial for the all. Otherwise, the homelessness that's here encamped around Google, right? We have whole encampments. I encourage you to go to Gold's Gym in Venice Beach today and look at the homeless encampments that are here in Los Angeles. This is going to engulf us. They don't have proper hygiene. They use the public bathrooms on the beach. We have tourists from all over the world. There's been a tuberculosis outbreak here. Now that we have coronavirus and all the hype around that, any one of these plagues could pop up at any given moment. These homeless guys with less hygiene than your average person may walk into a store. We can't discriminate against these people. They pick up food, they put it back on the shelf. The mom or the maid that comes to shop for the family picks up the food, gets the germs on them.
It's just a never-ending chain.
Right. Yeah. So the potential for a black plague, for us creating these problems that displace people, drive people crazy. They're trying to fit their square peg in a round hole, and they can't fit in, and they can't feed themselves, and they can't pay their bills, and it's very stressful, and so they self-medicate with over-the-counter drugs, illicit drugs, Prozac, regular legal drugs, and or alcohol or marijuana or whatever they can get their hands on, and then they don't have any kind of support, any kind of community ballast. So drugs is the outlet, and then that causes more imbalances and more problems. Then they end up on the street, and then it's just a life cycle. It's not like, it's just a bunch of lazy homeless people that can't get their shit together. No, this is a tribal problem. This is all of our problem. So we have to solve our problems. It's the same thing with taking oil from Afghanistan or utilizing Afghanistan as a proxy element to get the natural resources out or set up military bases so we have access to the oil so we can protect with mercenaries or the American military so the oil men can come in there and extract it out of the earth. And then we have the Iraq, Libya. Look what we did to Libya. It was totally stable as a country, and now it's destabilized. They've got slavery going on there. You got Syria. These things are happening, and you've got refugees. You've got angry young men that have seen their parents murdered in front of their face bombs dropped on them. They're angry now, and then they're dedicating their lives to becoming their own mercenaries and fighting for the validation or the valor of their family that was killed right in front of their eyes. So we've got this terrorist type situation that's going on, and this is not a problem in the Middle East. We fucking started it. We created it because we wanted to extract the oil out of the earth, or we wanted to do these trade deals, and people wouldn't trade and bargain with us, so we put embargoes on them, and we made their life more challenging. The same thing, I don't know if people's ever seen what's happening in like Palestine, for example. They can't solve their problems over there, so they lock these people up in this prison state that they're living in, and it's like squalor, and they've been bombed to smithereens. And I'm not saying Jews are right, Palestinians are wrong, or vice versa. It's just that we get to solve our problems or live in hell and die in hell. Right?
So where does it start? So I know you wrote a book on sort of 9 principles to what I'm assuming is sort of a plan or a solution for these things at a real fundamental human level. I mean, can you...
That's my solution. Take care of your own real estate.
So let's dive into that. I'd love to kind of open up these different principles and first understand what is the baseline thing that we've all got to tackle on an individual level to start to change all and address all of these problems that are out there.
Well, we got to take care of our own biology. First and foremost, to even come close to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to take care of your baseline. And I think us in the West have the capacity to even think about self-realization or advancements. Most people are just day-to-day survival. I hear you go to India and they've got 4 generations of a family living in the street, right? So we as Westerners, especially living in California, right? We actually have the capacity to where we can think about stuff like this. So if, for example, 62% of the American people were obese and overweight when I started my company 13 years ago, and now that's 70% or so. And that's 8% growth, almost 10% growth in a span of a decade or so.
Which is a lot.
That's exponential growth, right? 70% is close to 100% if it's growing at that level. So if I don't put my foot down and do something, then I will become a statistic, right? So, and the way I see of solving any problem is what Gandhi said, become the change that you wish to see in the world. So I have to start with myself first. I have to heal myself. I have to heal the anger inside of myself, the fight inside myself, the competitiveness inside myself. I have to become healthy enough that my organs function, that my mind can be clear, and that I can be present with another human being and solve any conflicts that come up. That's just a baseline. So my book is a baseline for just human biology, physiology, and psychology to be healthy. From there, with a healthy mind and a healthy spirit and a healthy body, I can start making decisions that are going to be better for the future of not only me, but also of my family. And guess what? Now I realize that I've woken up to a certain level of my own health, that I'm connected to the human family. I'm connected to everything. I'm connected to the earth. I'm connected to the other species. So, for example, we're about to usher in 5G technology. Well, already microwave technology and cell phone technology is killing off. It's affecting the bees. It's affecting the birds. And there are no isolated systems on this planet. So everything is connected. And if you know anything about insects are what pollinate the flowers and the food and the insects.
Everything that we consume and that fuels us.
Even mosquitoes are a huge part of the ecosystem.
So what happens if mosquitoes and bees die?
We're dead.
They all fall
Einstein
away?
said Einstein said the bees were threatened many years ago, and Einstein said if the bees go, then we will go not soon after. So we will go soon after. And look at news in the last 4 or 5 years. We've already had a honeybee colony collapse. It's like 75% down. Right?
So if they go, the plants will go, and the things that eat the plants will go, therefore we'll go. That's
Correct.
Sort of the chain reaction.
Yeah, it's all connected. You can't separate yourself from the whole.
So,
and we've already had species, complete extinctions on this planet before.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, if certain species go extinct, why is it that the bees are so fundamental? That there's such a kind of a key player for our existence? Is it because of that? Because they are so connected with the plants, and some other animals don't have as much, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit more advanced biology. That's not really my wheelhouse. I just know that it's super. It's super interconnected.
Yeah.
And the bees are critical for food production.
So when did you realize that everything was so connected? Because I imagine you probably weren't always like this. You probably didn't always have these ideas and these visions and sort of this understanding of how we can change things.
Well, I think we're all born. I think we're all born with this innate intelligence, but we get conditioned or deconditioned or reconditioned, whatever. We get conditioned by society and the things that we think we should do. Right? That was in my book as well. I came out of high school. What do? I'll make money.
Yeah,
that's what you do, right? Make money. I'm sure everyone listening to that, they're like, fuck yeah, make money. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm an entrepreneur and I definitely talk about financial fitness, and I encourage everyone, while we still have a money system, because I believe I'm here to usher in the next level of money, the next level of commerce, exchange, whatever you want to call it. And money's just an iteration anyways. It was an idea from the mind of man in the first place. But in the meantime, you need money to survive in this world that we live in. But I do believe the final frontier, ultimately, and I think it talks about this in the Bible, I think if we can just be guided by God, by Spirit, then everything we need will be provided for. And I have friends that are living on that level right now. A little bit of a couch surfing, a little bit of a hippy-dippy-doo element as well, but they're also responsible and they're not afraid to sleep outside, right? They're not full-blown hippie, let the community take care of me,
Yeah, what is that balance? Because, like, I feel like you seem to be kind of riding the line between being like what some people might consider a hippie, very earthly and everything's connected and it's all
have
about
the lifestyle,
love, right? Yeah,
I have the freedom lifestyle.
But you also seem very, I guess, grounded and focused, and you live in LA and very modern. Like I don't even really know how to describe it, but you seem very balanced. Like what is it like to sort of live in both of those worlds for you?
Well, I've had my fair share of challenges, right? And I think I've failed myself to success. So, which is, if you really study the path of success, that's actually how it works, right? You just trial and error, and you just keep going. I believe that mind is everything. Focusing the mind, utilizing the mind as a tool, and I think I got caught up in blaming, complaining, playing the victim, before. And so now, because I had some troubles in my marriage and helping my family survive, and so now I got my money game on. My mind's clear. I need money right now. I'm not necessarily I need money. I'm here to create. I'm here to get the job done. And as a byproduct of that, I need a little capital. I mean, I need like 10 grand a month just to survive in this neck of the woods, right?
I bet.
And so I gotta have my game face on, right? I gotta be clear that income, that flow, that currency is flowing through me, right? So whatever mental and emotional blockages, spiritual blockages that I had to not receive that flow, because my understanding with the spiritual studies that I've done is that flow is always here. The abundance is always here, and tapping into that. And I think part of my conditioning and programming was that I wasn't enough and that there wasn't enough. And I see that played out on the media and on the news and in our culture. You know, it's never enough, you know?
Yeah.
It's not enough. And it's such a weird thing that we're living in, because take food, for example. Food has gotten so expensive, and the marketing of food, basically, stores need to take out the food if it's old or it doesn't look good or proper, and they throw it away. We throw away as much food as we manufacture. And that is highly wasteful, right? It's not efficient. That's the other thing we could look at as the efficiency of the systems that we have right now. Like fossil fuels, they're just not efficient, right? The electric motor is much more efficient. It's fueling the electric motor that we got to figure out. We got to figure out how to harness the free energy, whether it's zero-point technology, cold fusion, even wind and solar. We still have to learn to harness it more efficiently. So it really comes down to the efficiency and all this, again, it comes out of the mind. And if you don't have a clear mind because you're bogged down by stressful activities, you're working in a job that you don't like, for a boss that you hate, for a corporation that's antithetical to life itself, you're sitting down in a car, driving to traffic 45 minutes to an hour a day, your hip flexors are tight, your glutes are turned off, you're shoveling in processed shit food because you don't have the time to feed yourself, or you don't know how to, or do the research, because the owner's manual, which is another reason why I wrote the Ripped at 50 book. It's the owner's manual for the human body, because you never got one.
Yeah, we don't learn about how to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, not in high school, not in elementary school. Like the future of the world that I'm creating is self-care education. That's going to be a foundational element. Like everybody's going to know how to take care of their own instrument.
Yeah.
For lifelong,
That's huge. Know yourself, right, is sort of the...
All knowledge is knowledge of self, and all the ancient sages have said, know thyself. So
is that the key to getting clear? I mean, to understand who you are, what your mission is on this planet, what your vision is that like first and foremost necessary before you start working on other things? Because I feel like if you don't have that clear, you'll start to spin your wheels in different areas.
Yeah, you'll go to get a college education.
Yeah.
What did you say was the last thing you said?
Or maybe you're doing both at the same time, right? Like going through all the trials and errors. And
all roads ultimately lead to the same place, right? Even if you just fall on your face half your life, or the majority of your life, in the last years of your life, you get the aha moment. But the fact of the matter is yes, if you want to live a powerful life, if you want a purpose-driven life, if you want to live by design instead of living by default, if you really want to create, if you really want to say, shit, the Wright brothers wanted to fly like an eagle, they did that. Steve Jobs wanted to put a handheld computer in everybody's hand, and everybody thought he was crazy, and he did that, and that's changed the world. What can I do?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, once you get that bug, once you get that itch that you're a powerful creator, and not everybody's got to reinvent the newest, piece of sliced bread or the wheel or anything like that, but you can create the life of anything that you want to do. Figure that out.
Yeah.
That's like it took me 45 years or so to get on that train, to be like, oh yeah, this is a principle that I should actually apply in my life. Yeah, what is it I actually want to do?
Yeah.
So if you can get that down and figure out what your passion is.
Yeah. See, it's hard for people though, right? Like,
but that's because they're programmed
to be like, oh, this is my
passion. Sit down, shut up, get these mathematics down your throat, and get good grades.
Yeah.
But I want to whittle on the woodworking, or I want to do crossword puzzles, or I want to play house, or I want to do this, that, or the other thing. And maybe you're good at that, and maybe you want to sing songs or dance, or I don't know what it is. But no, you got to take your little square peg and put it in this round hole over here.
Yeah.
Which means sit down and shut up. And then if you're good at doing that, and you're actually intelligent, well, then you'll get a good job, because we'll make you a doctor or a lawyer. And a doctor and a lawyer just makes white collar crime legal, right? Or for most people, right? Look at the prison system. It's just a bunch of, mostly black people are put in there, right? So the systems are skewed. And so you're basically, a lawyer makes white collar crime legal, or helps you dance inside the system. And then a medical doctor is just a drug pusher. They just write scripts. That's what their position is, right? And look, I'm generalizing and being very hyperbolic, but the fact of the matter is what is the altruism behind that? Well, most doctors really, a lot of them want to do good, but a lot of them want to live up to their family's ideals. Those are the highest paying jobs in regular society, right? Entrepreneur and actor is way too risky, although if you make it in that realm, or basketball player, you're a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
But other than that, just sit down, shut up, get good grades, become a doctor or a lawyer, get a good job, and then, work the rest of your life, pushing drugs for the system. And, you'll be compensated handsomely if you just keep your mouth shut, because there's a whole host of food as medicine, natural remedies, free stuff like sunlight and barefoot grounding that will actually get people much more mileage than the cut, burn, and poison with the medical model.
Yeah.
Right? Healing is at a much more fundamental level if it's not crisis management, which is what the medical industry is doing. And if there's no crisis...
It's just solving the symptoms, not getting down to the core root of things.
Totally.
So the core root of things, in terms of illness and stress and disease, a lot of times it kind of comes down to, would you say inflammation?
Yes.
Inflammation of...
Stress, inflammation. Stress causes inflammation. Inflammation is at the root of all disease. If the body's inflamed for long periods of time, chronically, the body will, releases cortisol from that. Cortisol is driven by adrenaline. Adrenaline, cortisol, and insulin are the primary hormonal factors. Insulin gets affected if you're being malnourished. Look at the food supply right now, the soil content. The soil is effete. There's mineral imbalances. People have nutritional deficiencies. They're eating processed foods. They're eating non-foods. They're eating genetically engineered foods, which is mutated foods. And then what is a morbidly obese person that's got maybe 300 pounds overweight? That's a mutant, right? So as above, so below. You're eating mutated foods, and you're turning into a mutant.
I've never heard it put like that, but it is kind of true, right? Like, that's not our natural... Like, we're not naturally supposed to be built like that and to feel like this and to work like this. We're all kind of... I don't know. I look around, people seem like robots to me, too.
Slaves.
Like robots,
zombies.
slave, mutant people.
Yeah.
You went through an interesting sort of journey, I feel like, in trying out different careers and paths. You were a model, you were an actor, now you're the certified health nut.
Which is modeling and acting. I'm still in front of the camera.
That's what I want to talk to you about. Like, I feel like you've sort of integrated all these different worlds into what you're doing now. And, like, can you elaborate on how you got to this point? Because I imagine there's certain things about acting and certain things about modeling that you don't like.
Yeah, like the business of it. I love being an artist. I love utilizing my image and manipulating consciousness. Or manipulating is it's a negative word. I don't think that's the optimal word. I like affecting consciousness. I like inspiring consciousness. If I get people to think, my job is done, And I like poetry. I like non sequiturs. I like comedy. Comedy is set up and punch it with something that's opposite of the setup, So, and I like using those elements. I like helping people think in different ways. I like, especially with social media, I like using wrong language and made up words. I like
psycho chickens? What is a psycho chicken? You always call people psycho chickens.
It just flows good, right?
Yeah, it does.
It's like certified health nut. It just flows.
Yeah.
So these
It's
things.
playful. It's super playful. Too,
Yeah.
which is.
and it just comes from. I like language, and it's fun. I guess if you want to really know how my mind works.
Sure, let's dive in.
Yeah. So, Talking Heads, they had that one song. Oh God, what was the song? It's one of their most famous songs.
Okay.
It might even be called Psycho Killer.
Okay.
I don't know, but the chorus goes, Psycho Killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Da 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 da. And so I don't know. The word chicken is just a funny word.
It just came in.
The word chicken's just a funny word. It just is. Whether it's winter chicken dinner, or when I tell people, they ask me about supplements and food, I say, you know the difference between chicken shit and chicken soup, or chicken poop and chicken soup. It's all funny. And I like to use language and punch it and a little bit of comedy and I like offbeat comedy too, right? I like Andy Kaufman. He's really out there.
I'm not familiar with him. What is offbeat comedy? Just like stuff you wouldn't expect, or all comedy is a little unexpected and spontaneous.
Well, Andy Kaufman would just play these characters, and they would be really weird and out there, and he would just tax you on his idea. Like he would play the Mighty Mouse record song and he would just sit there and mime it on Saturday Night Live. Here he comes to save the day, and he would just be like really. He would sit there and look really nerdy in a well-dressed suit, kind of like a nerdy suit actually, and he'd be all embarrassed, and then Mighty Mouse chorus would come on, and he would put his arm out, and it was just very dramatic and thematic, and it was just funny. He was just an entertainer, but he taxed you on what his idea of funny was.
Which everybody has a different idea.
Correct.
Right?
And then there's some people that are just good joke tellers, But Andy Kaufman was just there's one thing to say funny things, and there's another thing to be funny.
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey, who's just incredibly talented and funny, he played Andy Kaufman in the movie Man in the Moon, I think it was called. Brilliant movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend.
No, I haven't seen it.
And when I was doing comedy, that's what I did. I was sick of the comedians. It was such a hard thing to do, and be in those rooms and wait for your time and go up there and bomb, or people not get your jokes, and the veteran comics were kind of assholes, and so they hated hack jokes, or they would poke fun at other young comedians for trying stuff.
Yeah.
And so I created this character. I had these Porsche design ski goggles from 1981. A friend of mine gave them to me. He went to Burning Man, and anyways, he found these Porsche. They were literally Porsche designs, so they looked really cool. They looked like Devo, right? You know, punk rock Devo from the 80s. They just looked like Devo, total psycho chicken glasses. And I was in Japan, and I was modeling for a ping pong company that had a ping pong outfit. It was a sweatsuit. Okay. And it was shimmery silver. Yeah. And I went down and I bought these Adidas. They were shimmery silver as well, these high tops. And the goggles. And I just invented this alien character. His name was Yerk from Uranus. And Yerk is spelled with a J, right? So a good old jerk. And he would fuck with the crowd, you know. I'd spend a minute and a half. You can find it's on YouTube. You can find the set on YouTube. It's Troy Casey live on the Sunset Strip. Jerk from Uranus.
Jerk from Uranus.
And he's like, I am an alien. Why did the chicken cross the road? Like, I would just fuck with people. Yeah. And then I just wove this whole set that was just totally offbeat. Middle of the scene, middle of the character. Middle of my set, I just stop and I'm like, all right, guys, this is fucking stupid, Yeah. So I'm just fucking with people, on so many different levels. And I took that to my social media, and I do that now. Yeah. I just play with people, and I play with myself, because it's like, because sometimes I irk people, and then they write back. The internet talks back, right? So then they're like, fuck you, or you're an asshole this way, or my mom died of that, and you're making a joke of it now, and I feel bad. So I'm playing with my own consciousness. But usually...
Which is tough, right? It's got to be kind of hard on you sometimes.
Oh,
like,
man.
Are you ever like, oh my God, I feel like I am jerk, Uranus. I feel like I am this character. Like, do you ever get like crossed up in it? Or are you able to look back and be like, no, these are all just creations of mine?
My mission is to raise human consciousness and change all systems. And that's a fucking pretty big job, right? Because we're pretty stuck where we're at right now with oil and fake money and fiat currency, petrodollar, and oil wars, and just it's a mess, right? So it's just some heavy lifting. So, my methodology is just get in there and do whatever it takes to either crack a joke or, make good, sexy pictures. Everyone wants to get laid at the biochemical level. So nature's first law is self-preservation. So everyone wants to get laid at the biochemical level. So we're all hormonally driven. So if I can put out a good, sexy picture of myself or even use other images. I've got this one image, eat organic, and this girl's getting eaten out above Central Park in a skyscraper in New York City. It's a killer image, and the message is eat organic, and it's a great message. And it always gets thousands of likes, right?
I bet. And you're getting the core message out there. Right?
So, but sometimes that backfires. Sometimes I say something that people don't like, or sometimes I get a little too naked, and some of my
you've got this epic USA Speedo.
Yeah.
Right?
I got two of them.
You got two of them?
I got a Speedo, and then I've got some boxer Speedo kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I wear more often.
Okay. But I'm sure the Speedo gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, I don't wear the Speedo that much because it's pretty skimpy, And
hey, but if it's doing its job.
Yeah, it's doing its job. Plus, I like to get as much sun on my body as I could. I mean, I would lay out on the beach naked if I could. I'd take pictures of myself naked on social media if I could. I would, because I think the human body is beautiful, and I think I got a great body. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I love that you just own it. You're like, this is me, and because I feel like some people can be ashamed of, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to make anybody feel lesser or inferior. But really, like, if they do, that's kind of their fault, right? In a way.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is,
maybe not like offending people.
We shouldn't be embarrassed of being a human being.
Yeah,
we're all born naked. We're all naked underneath our clothes. What is it about our nakedness? And that we hide what we are, and then we hide ourselves emotionally. We hide ourselves mentally. We're a facsimile of who we truly are, and that's who we present to the world, right? Because we're in a competitive world, and people are ready to take each other down if they see a weakness. Right? But ultimately, we're all one. If we can cooperate, we can do things exponentially better than where we're at right now.
I feel like having that understanding that we are all connected, it is a sort of protection in a way. Like it feels comforting to know that we're all in this together. Like if deep down on like an energetic level, we're all like vibrating magnetic beings like on this floating rock, like you say, right? Around a burning ball of fire. Like and it kind of puts things in perspective. We're like, nothing's that big of a deal.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, have a good time then. And people corrected me on that video from yesterday. It's like, we're not on a rock. Flat Earth, baby. It's just like...
Which, that's a straight out conspiracy. Like, I can't wrap my mind around... I mean, everything is spherical, right? Like atoms, molecules, flowers, plants. To think that anything that creates life is flat just seems kind of bizarre.
I've heard the biggest argument to flat Earth is angular momentum, or is that what it is? Angular momentum?
What is that?
Angular momentum. It's just, I don't know. One of my friends annihilated somebody else with that. I think that's what it is. I can't. Normally, I memorize things. I keep it in my back pocket. If anybody fucks with me, I'll say that. Well, here's the thing. We live in a universe that has all possibilities. And we also have two forces on this planet, yin and yang. And my understanding is you can talk positively or negatively about any subject infinitum, right? So is it flat Earth? Yep. Here's a bazillion reasons why it is. Is it that we're on a globe? Well, here's a bazillion reasons why it is.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's not that important. Yeah, if there's a big conspiracy to hide the fact that we're on a flat Earth as opposed to a globe, yes, that has credence. But we could also go into the fiat currency system, right? And I like to talk about it without a conspiracy theory. Let's just be matter of fact. So when it comes to flat Earth, it's like, that's not affecting my present moment. It's like aliens. Potential possibilities, fucking huge.
Yeah.
Right? Huge. And I hold the vision that, yeah, that could possibly be there. Star Wars, Star Trek, all of it's real. Okay, great. I'm not there yet. I'm just trying to have this conversation right here with you, sitting on this grass, trying to feel good, make sure that, I have a good poop today, and maybe Mrs. will let me have sex with her tonight, and, have a good meal, and I don't lose my temper, right? The fact of the matter is, anything's possible. What am I going to spend my present moment emergent reality on? Trying to figure out if we're in flat Earth or not. Or there's aliens. I don't think that's the most pressing point, especially when we're shitting in the waterways and we're cutting down the rainforest. I think I'd rather engage people on their own gut microbiome and their own sleep hygiene and get them to be strong, vital human beings so they can contribute to the rest of the world. I mean, that's another tenet that I believe in, contributionism, the gift economy. Biomimicry is aligned with that. Life creates conditions conducive for life. Greg Braden talks about, organisms contributing, cooperating, working in unison, in symphony together, right? Instead of discordant against warring factions. So, how can I bring myself together first and foremost? How can I bring myself into coherence? Where my mind, my heart, my spirit, my body is all aligned. Where my thoughts, my heart, and my gut is lined. Literally and figuratively, right? The definition of integrity is when those are aligned. So anybody who's talking about integrity that's got a blown out gut, an abdominal wall, is fucking out of integrity.
Yeah.
Because the poisons that they're shoving in their mouth are affecting their gut. So we were talking about, animals before, balance and stuff. Yeah, an animal in the wild looks like me when I take my shirt off. This is normal. This is a baseline biological norm. Now, that is not the norm we are living in now because we are out of balance. So when it comes to flat Earth and aliens, what do you believe? I believe that I'm sitting in front of you right now. That's really all I can believe. That's it.
We're experiencing it, right? Like, if we're not experiencing those other things, how do we know if it's not? It's in our minds.
And
right?
the yogis say that's an illusion, anyways. This is all a dream
right now.
This is all a dream. This is all God creating God consciousness manifesting in the material realm. This is spirit manifested in the material realm. This is thoughts manifested in the material realm. I mean, look at there's 7 immutable laws, Hermetic Code, and the law of mentalism states that all is mental.
So anything you think can become a reality.
Well, just think about it. Of course, think about it. Everything in this park right now that is not trees and dirt was designed from the mind of man. Thought.
It's pretty incredible.
Well, look at this table. Look at that GoPro. Look at this microphone. Look at your shirt.
Everything.
That's correct.
Even us, in a way, right? Like, if I don't know, I'm just thinking about
if all is mental,
when I was created by my parents,
correct?
They thought to have sex,
and
produce me, Maybe not consciously.
Well, hopefully they were a little bit conscious. I was conscious when I had my son. My daughter, my wife wasn't ready for it, but I was like, let's do it anyways. I think she fucking hated me for it. But whatever. We got great kids now.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to walk through hell to know that you're living in a beautiful dream and beautiful world.
What's been the sort of the lowest moment for you in this journey to get here to where you're at right now? I know you talk about it a little bit in your book about kind of relationship struggles and your issues with your gut and kind of switching careers. Was there any like sort of dark night of the soul, like this is it, I've hit bottom, now it's time to surrender to the flow of life, and I don't know, maybe just like a moment where everything sort of shifted for you?
You know, I gotta tell you, I've had many of those moments. When I was partying as a model, you know, a lot of this is in the book as well, but when I was partying as a model, and you know, I ruined relationships. I was in Barcelona one time, and I was with a girlfriend. We came from Greece. I hated the industry because they always wanted to manipulate and control and fucking rip you off and, you know, whatever. You know, it just wasn't a cut and dry business, and it just seemed like it was just real catty, and it was all kind of fake. But when it came down to money, which is what I was in the industry for, then it just got like, some of these countries they were just weird, and I'm just like, I did a Heineken commercial, and I'm like, Heineken's got money. It's like, pay me some money, you know? And they're like, oh, well, these guys are making like $100, and it's like, I don't want to make $100. Heineken's got money. I'm on camera. Pay me $1,000. I want $1,000. How about $1,000? You know, you do that in the States, you're going to make $80,000, right? So anyhow, I don't know what it was, but I got into a fight with my agency, and then I was leaving to Barcelona, and I wanted my money, and I started drinking in the morning. Fucking, that's bad news. Been drinking, traveling, and doing business in the morning? No, bad news. Yeah. So, and there I was. It was in Europe, and I used to drink. I used to drink Heineken, and they don't sell it in refrigerators there. They would sell it warm. Okay. And so I would just fucking drink. I know you say, oh, I would love it, dude. I was just drinking warm beers, man.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh man. And so, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So I just learned to love it. And there I was in the agency, fucking 40-ounce cracked open, fucking pounding brewskis in the morning. And it was all this paperwork to get the cash, too. That was another weird thing. It's like, I don't give a fuck. You guys got a safe back there or something. Just pay me the cash. It isn't even that much money, you know? Here I am trying to walk. So there was my disdain about the industry I was in, disdain about the silliness of money and corporations and manipulation, and I don't know, and maybe that was my own judgment too at the time. Maybe I still have judgments about that. But there I was, and I was drinking, and the next thing you know, I found myself in Barcelona. And the modeling industry was so funny because, you know, I fought long and hard to get the campaigns that I got. I ended up doing Versace, and I moved up to a certain level, but you would still have to like go through the gatekeepers, you know, they'd have to approve you. And some people look at me and see my confidence or see who I am or whatever, and they don't like something about me. Or maybe they even saw that I was drinking. They didn't like, but the modeling industry was rife with partying, ecstasy and all that stuff. Yeah. And so there was a lot of facade and hypocrisy. And so towards the end, I just didn't give a fuck anymore. But it was different from the way I don't give a fuck now because I'm healthy, clean, clear. Back then, I wouldn't give a fuck and I would just drink and kind of mask I did really care. And I did care how I felt and how I was treated. And I just masked that with drugs and alcohol. So I ended up in Barcelona. They started giving me a little bit of attitude. I went back to the hotel that I was staying at, and it was just this crappy gray door, and it reminded me of a prison cell, and it was actually painted over. And I went to kick it closed, and I kicked it. It was glass, and I kicked through it, and And I think I was bleeding too. And it was just a fucking mess, right? Drunk. I was bad attitude, smashed something, bleeding, and the hotel asked me to leave. And then I got on a plane from there, and I went to Italy. That was probably a down moment, and I hadn't talked to my mother in many years. And I got on the phone with her, and I knew that I had a real big problem with alcohol. And I asked her for help. I reached out, and I knew she couldn't help me, right? She was living in Scotland at the time, and I was in Spain, and she's like, sideways phone call, like, what's this phone call coming from? And it was me, and she wanted to be there for me, but she just couldn't. She had no resources, and some of that brought up the abandonment from my childhood, and I think there was some pity rolled into there, and maybe I felt sorry for myself, and I just cried, and I was just like, that was a pretty low moment in my life. I got into a huge fight with my girlfriend at the time, which was another part of my self-sabotage patterns that I'm really studying now, becoming clear with that. And I think that was a low period of my time. Definitely going through my divorce and all the years that I had challenges with my wife, that was the dark night of the soul. It was just, I had black mold exposure. I had neurological issues in my legs. I was exhausted. I had 2 brand new kids. So I was blessed with this awesome family, and then I was cursed with my own self-sabotage, patterns, my own health issues. So that was another low period of my of time, and then I got a DUI in 2016, and I stopped drinking 20 years ago, partying hard and stuff, and just didn't drink that much, but I had a glass of wine here and there, and every once in a while I would tie one on. And that DUI at that position with my relationship with my wife, my family, that was a very, very low point, and I had to build up from there. And then right after that, I got divorced. So that was all my dark night of the soul, where it was just like the universe, kicked me when I was down, and then when I was getting up, kicked me in the balls again, and then when I went back down on that one, I got kicked in the head. It's like it was.
So it was just it kind of just kept coming up.
Yeah,
forcing you to, I guess,
acknowledge
look at certain things,
the darker elements of myself. Black mold. It's like, what does that represent? That represents the deep, dark dankness inside of myself. And so, how can I look at that a little bit deeper? How can I go deeper? In my men's work that I work with and with my clients, the invitation is always to go deeper. We're always going, deeper and deeper. And the divorce, silver lining, backside of it, divorce was the best thing that happened to us. Even if we didn't get remarried, which we did, and all of this is in the book as well in great detail. But the divorce really helped us because we couldn't solve our problems together, and I knew with the amount of spiritual development that I'd already had, that hating on my wife wasn't going to help me love my children any better, wasn't going to help bring them up. And so even though I didn't get along with her for a very long time, even after we got separated, my single prayer and gratitude journal was peace and harmony with my wife. Just bless her as much as possible. And when I started working on the book, we started to get closer together. And then we went down to we went and drank ayahuasca together. And you'll have to read the book to understand the best. But those were some really down times, deepest, darkest moments in my. And I got to tell you, the deepest, darkest moments, they're great. Because they put you on a level playing field. The only way to go up is up. Once you're on the ground that far, to repair out of there, it's just time to get your shit together, or die. End up in prison or dead.
So it really is a sort of do or die. These are do or die situations that you went through, and that I guess you would say everybody
does. unless they're just mediocre and anesthetized. But you know what? They're being tortured in their soul anyways. If you're living a life of quiet desperation, that's no way to live. That's torture. That's hell within itself. So, my advice to people is let the pain get stronger. The pain teacher's always guiding us. The question is, are we listening? So,
and that's emotional pain, physical pain, mental, spiritual, all the same. All the levels.
Natural law of mentalism. It's all. Mind is an embodied process. So your mind will store tension in the body. That's the principles of yoga. The definition of yoga is the union of body and mind. So you can heal the mind through the body. You can heal the body through the mind.
Which seems, what I've noticed personally is that when you start to do yoga, you start to meditate, these things you start to experience, you start to feel, and you feel the connection, and you feel a little bit happier, and then you feel things ease in your body. But when you think about it rationally, it's like, how does this make sense? Like, how is my mind in my body right now? And I think it seems to me that sort of logical understanding, it almost seems like it's holding people back from like truly believing and recognizing that connection. So I just wonder, like, is there a way that you sort of make sense of it on that scientific level that might help people be like, oh yeah, like my mind is actually my body. Emotions are stored in my muscles. It is all connected.
How to help people understand that?
Yeah, like do you have a certain language, or like could you, is there a way to explain that in a way that, like how? Like,
well,
I don't know, maybe that's...
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question, but let me just see. This is what's coming to me intuitively.
Yeah.
I invite people to get into an ice cold shower first thing in the morning, or if they're having a hard day, or if they're having a hard moment. Get present. That will integrate everything. There is no separation of the mind and the body. If that doesn't work, do one of my breathing exercises, which I got tons of free videos online. Just start breathing. Take 10 deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Here we go. And then hold. Inhale all the way. And hold that for as long as you can. And tell me how you feel then. And if you don't feel completely integrated or activated and a different level of consciousness, change your state.
So it almost is like you really just have to try things out, experiment with different tools, different technologies, different practices, like the ones that you teach.
Yeah, if you're stuck in your life, find a time when you have time for yourself, right? So self-love, self-care, it's a huge practice. And just figure out what you love to do. Like I'm sitting on the grass right here in this park. This is one of my favorite parks in the world. It overlooks the Pacific Ocean. It's on a bluff. So the energy, the wind that comes off here, it's just magical here. I like walking barefoot in this park. I love it, actually. It's actually a non-negotiable. It's one thing that just activates my soul, right? Figure out what that is for yourself. I like to ride a bicycle, too. I like walking on this grass a lot more than the bicycle, but the bicycle will do. And the bicycle's a non-negotiable. Got to ride it at least every week, if not every day. Walking barefoot, getting out in the sun, jumping in wild water, hugging my kids. These are things that I love to do. Eating nutritious food. These things are non-negotiable. Drinking clean water, clean, filtered, pure spring water, whatever, the purest water I can find. Those things are just so important. Assessing my relationships. Who do I hate? Who do I want to kill, murder? Who pissed me off? Who will I never forgive? Start looking into that, because that is like holding up a rock over your head that you can barely lift. How long can you hold that? Because that's the emotional weight that you are carrying. You want to let that shit go and be free? Okay. And forgive that person. Right?
Yeah.
forgive that person, and while you're forgiving them, you get to forgive yourself at the same time, because you're torturing yourself. That's self-torture, self-sabotage. So get clear on take time for what you like to do, what you love to do, what's in it for you. It's all about you. Selfish got played out by the religions because they were trying to control humanity back when religions ruled as opposed to governments or the monetary system. And so there's ultimately only one here. And if you're not taking care of yourself, who will? I see this as a constant a trap, with mothers. Mothers, they wear themselves out for the family, for the kids. But then they tax them on, I'm doing this for you, or, poor me, or, no, it's like, Mom, like I tell my wife all the time, take care of yourself first. I'll take care of the kids. Just take care of yourself, rejuvenate yourself, take care of your health, take care of your nutrition, take care of your sleep, right? Don't work yourself into the bone. That's not good for the family.
And it all kind of seems like it's around energy, right? Like the food you eat, the things you drink, everything you consume, and even the environments you're in.
The media.
It's the media. Consume. It's energizing you in one way or another.
Correct.
You talk in your book a lot about energy and releasing energy, not only internally but in the world too. Could you kind of dive into that a little bit in terms of like what is that energy that's trapped in us, and kind of how we can be more energized and more, I guess, alive on a day-to-day basis? Because it seems like that's one thing I look around and I see people kind of tired.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of the epitome of like not tired.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you get tired every once in a while, but like
I was actually really tired today. I think I moved my house again for like the 10th time in the last 10 years, and it's just my book's coming out, and but I'm out here in nature. Nature's always going to solve your problems. So, get grounded into the earth. Take the energy from the Earth's magnetic resonance, the Schumann resonance, 7.8 gigahertz. Get the energy from the Earth, the frequency and the vibration from the Earth. Get the energy from the source of all life on the Earth is that sun, right? So get some sun on the body, get some sun on your skin, acclimate your skin, boost your nutrition, make sure that you have the antioxidants and the nutrition to handle the sun. Then get your body into the sun, as much naked body into the sun as possible. Again, dig deep into your relationships. What are you holding on to? Who are you demonizing? Resenting someone else is like drinking poison and expecting them to be hurt, but you're hurting yourself, right? Yeah. So get into nature, sunlight, movement. The body needs to move. The purpose of exercise is to move the lymph. The lymph is the interstitial fluid, the waters of the body. A stagnant body of water turns into a cesspool. So if you want a toxic body, then just don't move. Sit at a desk, drive in traffic. Shut your hip flexors down, your glutes down. So the body needs to move.